Glucinda the troll holds back her curt axe, and with a quick flick of the wrist and a guttural sound, she snaps it down the corridor towards Segway, and she hits.
Segway invokes her shield spell.
You flash up your magical ward, but it's not enough. Glucinda's axe topples in, strikes you in the neck.
Nope.
And
as a reaction, I cast Silvery Barbs. And I'm going to force you to make a reroll on Glucinda's attack.
Let me just look at the spell here. Alright. One reaction which you can take when a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. But you can't see Segway. She's behind the wall. She's down the corridor, and she's also over 60 feet away from you at this point.
No, spell targets the creature who succeeds on any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. It distracts them with magic.
I'm confused. I can't imagine what's going on right now. I got this, Marissa. So Glucinda has already thrown her axe. So I'm a little confused as to how throwing the barbs to distract her after she's already thrown the axe is going to work.
Oh, okay. Tim, everyone. Okay. So if you see her succeed, you can cast that spell.
No, the spell's target is any creature who succeeds on an ability check, saving throw, or attack roll within 60 feet of my tune. That's Glucinda. It's magic. It's a valid target.
I'm confused. This just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Glucinda hefts the axe. Segway casts shield. Bark does Silvery Barbs. And then I re-roll that action. But you don't see the axe hit. Like, you've got no way of knowing what's happened down a corridor that you can't see down.
Maybe Glucinda has a tell. Like, she pumps her fist, or it's like a glint in her eye. So, like does this spell reverse time or give you supernatural senses?
It succeeds if I see her. Not if I see her succeed.
Okay, in order for that to work, this spell would have to detect successes. What if I had a wizard within 60 feet of your character and they make a knowledge check? By the wording of this spell, am I able to force a re-roll on a knowledge check that my character has no knowledge of it happening? Like, how does that apply to, say, stealth? So if something makes a successful stealth check, that's an opposed roll against me, and they're within 60 feet, I'd have to let you know so that you might cast your Silvery Barbs. You can see how this is going to be a problem, right?
It works because the rules say it works. It's magic. We don't question how it happens. I don't know why you guys keep doing this to me. It's in the rules.
Yeah, no, but it's worse than that. Like, if I'm telling you about every success that's happening within 60 feet of you, you can choose not to cast your spell. So somehow this new spell of yours is effective even when you don't cast it. I'm still sort of hung up on this. Explain how your character has used a spell that they haven't cast to detect a success that's happened within 60 feet. I'd have to start
parsing that sentence wrong.
telling
Tim,
you
the rules,
about
read the
successes that are
rules.
happening close to you.
If a creature I can see succeeds, not if I can see succeeds. Got it?
Distracting someone doesn't change an arrow or an axe in flight. Can you check the rule book and just see if this spell jettisons us into an alternate
We
reality?
don't need to make anything up. We don't need to invent new rules. They're clear. If my token right here can see Lucinda's token right over there, she is a valid target of my spells. I don't need to see what happens. If she succeeds, she's a valid target of mine.
So does this spell reverse time or like give you supernatural sensing with cause and effect?
If she doesn't succeed, she's not a valid target. So all I'm asking is, after the attack, I'm going to cast Silvery Barbs. Are they a valid target? Come on, DM. Tell me that's in the rules. It's how the
If
rules
you added
work.
that condition, nobody would ever be able to cast a spell.
It's pretty straightforward. Stop making up alternate universes and weird stuff. You guys are just missing the attack.
I'm confused!
I've got the rules.
This
They're
doesn't
right in
make
front of me.
any
They're pretty clear.
sense!
Okay, it's a first level spell. It's a first level spell. I'm not going to let you change the laws of causality.
That stuff doesn't matter. The condition is met. Is the condition met? I can cast my spell.
It's not going to shift the universe. Okay, we're not going to slide into an alternate dimension to understand a first level spell. But we've got to work into the middle ground. We have to respect the rules as written, right, Tim? So I've got to come down and make a ruling. All right, so in the interest of fairness, what I'm going to do is let's put aside the obnoxious consequences at the moment and assume that Bark can counter with his Silvery Barbs, okay? So let me do the reroll. And, well, that's a miss. Just repaint the scene for you guys. Lucinda whips the axe down the hallway, and up comes the shield spell from Segway. But Dr. Barkenstein weaves out Silvery Barbs, coalescing around Lucinda, changing her aim, and causes the axe to miss.
So can Marissa recover her first level spell slot?
What?
But I cast the spell. I
Whereas
cast
Tim
the
would
spell
say-
already.
Marissa could never have legally cast the shield spell because Segway never got hit.
Okay, that's silly. Oh, you're making my head hurt. He cast
I
the
remember
spell.
casting the spell.
I think that once a spell's crossed off your character sheet, it sort of counts as cast. Right?
Unless the reroll after the shield spell hit.
Really? Oh.
Lucinda attacked Marissa's character. Marissa made a shield spell. Her spell didn't work. I cast my spell. My spell worked. That's the chronology. That's the reality. Both spells get clicked off. Sometimes you guys think the weirdest things. Like, I don't know where you get your ideas from. It's pretty clear what happened at the table.
Oh. Oh, crap. Okay, I'm not a fan of this spell.
You know, sometimes I think you guys are playing a different game than I am. Like, why are you making it so complicated?
Thanks for joining me. I've tried recording this this little blurb about the barbs, barb about the blurbs, a number of times. So I'm going to sort of piece together some of my attempts into a cohesive critique and analysis of this spell, because there's a couple of things that I really do like about this spell from a flavor and from a battlefield control sense. Although I think it is an absolute gem of a spell to explain why myself and others do not appreciate the current state of Wizards of the Coast design concept. What it does is it leaves perspectives out of the table, right? The story that I just did with my wife, and thanks Joanne for stepping up and taking on the role of a couple of players, even though she doesn't play D&D. I think she was a badass in this. So what I think is missed is that each character that I had there had a different perspective, and perspective is a filter that changes the reality that you're dealing with. And from the game filter, so that was Tabletop Tim's character. Tabletop, that's me in the red shirt. You know that. Okay, I can be an idiot, right? So Tabletop Tim is encapsulating the viewpoint that the table is the thing. That we should treat it like a board game, like a game of chess, and follow the rules through there, so that there is not a consideration for if we've broken any of the laws of physics or laws of reality or made it bad for the narrative player. Joanne had the opportunity to play a character who's in the narrative, which, I mean, the shared narrative, and the other player she had, the third type of player, is somebody who's in their own head, the internalized character. Marissa is playing it from the point of view of her own internal narrative, and that is a very important thing, because there's a lot of things that don't happen in the shared narrative, and the internal narrative is another way of experiencing the game. And the moderator, in my opinion, really has to be able to live through those worlds. So we're going to go through some analysis of this, and at the end I'm going to propose a change. Actually, and I'm going to credit my brother for one of the concepts here. There's been an awful lot of a hullabaloo around a new spell for the Harry Potter source material for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and that spell is Silvery Barbs. And in this video, I'd like to underline some of the math, some of the opportunities, and some of the not often talked about features and benefits of this spell. I hope that this video will help you decide if this spell is right for your particular brand of Dungeons & Dragons game, and perhaps give you some perspective from a game design point of view on some of the problems with this spell. Now, quite rightly, Silvery Barbs is always compared or foiled against one of the premier first level spells in the game, the Shield spell. So what I'd like to do is start by underlining what's different in these two spells. So what some of the advantages, disadvantages would be, and then I'm going to do an analysis of the core feature, that core mechanism of the spell, and to see when one is better than the other. And finally, what I'm going to do is offer some perspective about the design elements of this game and how it might be problematic from a simulationist, narrativist point of view, and how it challenges some of the ideas about, well, what is a role-playing game? So there's an awful lot to unpack here, so let's just get right into it. Silvery Barbs is a spell that lets you use your reaction when a creature you can see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check. Okay? We're foiling that with Shield, which is a spell that you can cast as a reaction. That's a first level spell. That when you are hit with an attack, you may cast Shield as a reaction. So they're very similar, but those triggering conditions are different. So let's talk about some of the things that are different functionally with the Shield spell. The first thing is there's duration. The Shield spell is a 1-round spell. It's going to last the entire round from the time you cast it until your turn begins next. So it can apply to every single attack that comes in after you cast the spell. So in a melee, this becomes very useful for not just the attack at hand, but it will persist for the entire round. So that is a huge advantage to the shield-like mechanism. Second, you do not need to be able to see the attack in order to trigger the condition of the spell. So that means if you're struck from behind, as you're feeling the blade start to cut into your neck, I suppose, the shield spell goes off as a reaction. And so unless something is taking your reaction away, which would be a different conversation, unless something's taking your reaction away, at which point you can't cast either spell, your shield spell can protect you against things that are unseen. It can also protect you against things that are further than 60 feet away from you. So if a warlock casts an Eldritch Blast from 300 feet away from you and hits you with that Eldritch Blast, you can use shield to turn that into a mist, to transpose into a mist. That is not possible with the Silvery Barbs spell because it specifically only targets generally enemies who are within 60 feet of you who you can see. So that's another point of difference. The shield spell also has the added benefit of giving you immunity to the magic missile spell. So shield, magic missile have always been in this little dance together. Okay, so now what's different about Silvery Barbs? Well, most importantly is that it affects saving throws, ability checks, and attack rolls, and it's not a target of self. So that immediately makes it incredibly versatile. Now, we're not going to go down the path of that other people went with this about using Silvery Barbs to blow away legendary resistance. That's not how it's worded, and the errata has come in to confirm that that's not really how that would interact, and we can't use it to affect initiative because that's not really a success. So we can set those kind of ideas aside, but it very much does target any creature within 60 feet of you that you can see who has success in any of those areas. If they get success, then they are a valid target of your Silvery Barbs. On top of your Silvery Barbs being able to affect any of your enemies who you see do something good, after you cast the spell, it also confers a bonus, a boon, an advantage to any ally, including yourself. So there are some of the advantages. It does not have the duration of the shield spell, but it's far more versatile. And notice that the wording, and this is when we start to get into some of the absurdity of the spell, the wording says that you need to detect the success of the creature. If that creature, let's suppose Bob the Goblin or Bob the Hobgoblin, is shooting at one of your party members who's down a corridor, you cannot see that party member, but you can see the goblin, the hobgoblin. Bob, Hobnob, and Hobgoblin shoots. He has a success. You can then use this spell to reverse it. And I'm going to talk about why I don't like the narrative being violated this way, because it doesn't follow, but we'll get there. So I can then reverse that and force him to make a reroll. So let's now talk about the main comparison. We have a shield spell on one side, which give us +5 to our armor class. And we have Silvery Barbs on the other side. In this corner, we've got Silvery Barbs, which is going to force a reroll. Well, banal analysis on the internet would say something ridiculous like, well, a +5 bonus is a 25% difference. Well, congratulations, you've made it to grade 2, and you've identified that on a 20-sided dice, +5 is 1/4 or 25% of the dice. However, that's not relevant, because what we're talking about is we're talking about converting a hit to a miss. And converting hit to a miss, we have to count how many options. There's not 20 hits that you're worried about. If somebody needs, I'm going to start with the easy example. If somebody needs either a 19 or 20 to hit your character, and you cast the shield spell, your odds of your shield spell foiling their attack is 50%. Now, mind you, it's really important how your table plays. So if your dungeon master is prone to getting excited and calling out their crits before they call out their hits, and say something like, Bob the Hobgoblin shoots his arrow and he crits you, hitting you in the throat, you mentally in your mind go, well, there's no point casting shield at this point, is there? Because you know that that's not something that you can undo with a shield spell. Generally, what would be advised at the table is for the dungeon master to reserve themselves a little bit because of the nature of the way that the game violates the arrow of time. And shield spell, I'm okay with this. Shield spell, we've got a little narrative, get out of jail free here. Okay, I don't mind it. So, Bob the Hobgoblin hits you with the arrow, and then pregnant pause, giving you a chance to work any of your little trixies, no trixies, and crits. Okay, so the dungeon master doesn't give up the idea that it's a crit until little Bobsy the Hobnob and Hobgoblin has gobbled your hob with his knob. Okay, so you take that chance. Dungeon Master says, I've created a hit, and the combination of your armor class and their attack bonus is such that they only hit on a 19 or 20. Shield spell is only 50% effective. However, the way that bounded accuracy and encounter levels work, the sweet spot for what they need to hit you and the sweet spot for the shield spell are pretty damn similar. If you're an average character with an average armor class being attacked by an average opponent, they're going to need a 15 or higher generally to hit you, and that just, my friend, happens to be a sweet spot for the shield spell. So let's take that example of they need a 15 to hit. Okay? So if they roll a 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 to hit, there are 6 options. If the Dungeon Master says they hit, there were 6 things that they could have rolled. When you cast their shield spell, 5 of them go away and 1 remains, which is the crit. So when you cast the shield spell, 5 out of 6 go away, leaving only 1 in 6, so 83% of my hits go away by casting that shield spell. And then it lingers and goes on to other attacks. That is the maximum efficiency of a shield spell, is 83.3% or whatever the math is on that. That's the maximum effectiveness of the shield spell. Let's foil that against the reroll. Well, if I need a 15 to hit you, I'm hitting on a 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm hitting 6 times out of 20. I'm hitting 30% of the time. This is where the 5 times 6 can actually come in from those people who thought that shield was 25%. Okay? Because, anyhow. So, casting Silvery Barbs is less effective against that first attack than the shield spell when they need a 15 to hit, because 83% of the times that you got hit, the shield spell turns that into a miss, whereas Silvery Barbs means that there's a 30% chance that they'll still hit you, there's a 70% miss chance, and 70's not as good as that 83. Now, as your armor class goes up, as you're harder to hit, the reroll is better and better. And remember, it's not just your armor class, it's the armor class plus the attack bonus of the opponent, because we're dealing with linear probabilities created by the odd mechanism that Dungeons and Dragons uses to model things. So that understanding the numbers helps you understand the peculiarity, the pathology of the Dungeons and Dragons system. So, as you've got a better armor class, Silvery Barbs is better for the power gamer, the person who has those really high armor classes. So Silvery Barbs is good, and I've been using the hit example. Remember, it's saving throws and ability checks. Silvery Barbs is most potent at eliminating unusual events. So somebody has an unusual success, then Silvery Barbs can undo it. However, usual things, Silvery Barbs not good against. Shield is much better at when you have a bad armor class and somebody hits, and it's like, well, I was sort of expecting to hit. Shield is the better choice there. If somebody hits you on a 3, you cast Silvery Barbs, you got a 10% chance of undoing that miss. Only if they roll a 1 or a 2 on that next roll is your Silvery Barbs going to successfully thwart that attack. 90% of the time, that's not thwarted. Silvery Barbs mechanically is good for undoing unlikely successes, whether that's a saving throw, ability check, or hit. So that's the math of it. Let's now get back to one of my big bugaboos about it, the fact that now the narrative is weirdly warped by this, because like everything, Dungeons and Dragons tends to insert chunks of time where there is no time. And this is an example again. Role-playing games are a creature that exists in their ideal state. They're going to exist as a physical game space or virtual game space that's got rules that people can work through and has a tangible set of mechanisms for resolving what happens. That's the one level. It's only one level. The other level the role-playing game is it's a narrative that is shared by the players and have a shared experience and a shared spoken story. And the third level is the unspoken story of each participant. Each participant has their own role-playing game that they're engaged with that's about their character and contains their unspoken imagination, and each one of these three worlds needs to be cultivated by the game. So here we've got a spell that drastically violates the narrative. You have a hard time following the narrative when this spell is cast. You have to sort of be in the rules pattern and then infer what happened after the fact, once you've sorted out the jigging and jogging back and forth through time. So those are my thoughts on Silvery Barbs. Please leave some comments. If you like this video, please subscribe to get this content. Even though I'm not going to be producing content for D&D 5th edition, I'm going to be continuing to promote my role-playing systems that will be released soon. I'll often talk about Dungeons and Dragons because that's the behemoth in the room. And whether you're interested in a different perspective and it changes the way that you play Dungeons and Dragons, or, you know, welcome aboard if you want to pick up some of our games and try them out. That would be wonderful as well. But hopefully there's something here for you. And if you're a DM, maybe this has shaped your idea on whether or not Silvery Barbs belongs in your campaign. And if you're a player, maybe you can see where you're going to use Silvery Barbs and where you're going to use Shield. Great gaming. Thank you for being with me. Take care, and I'll see you next time. So the proposed change would be that we're going to notice that this is an enchantment. We're going to notice that the spell is problematic because it has a detection component. And what we want to do is we want to take problems and turn them into solutions. So from a gamist point of view, this spell might be overpowered. One of the ways that we can change the power level of this spell is changing its casting time. So from an action economy point of view, I'm going to make the following suggestion: that we play this enchantment spell as a one action to cast. You cast the enchantment spell. It is a concentration spell with a duration of 1 minute. Then the trigger is that you can use your reaction to unload the Silvery Barbs. And what this does is it means that, yes, the Silvery Barbs are like the hairs on your head, and only the caster can see these. And whenever a character within 60 feet of the caster has success on either a saving throw, ability check, or attack roll, his barbs go up, and the player has the opportunity to use their reaction to fire off the barbs to force a reroll. That addresses the cause and effect problem. That addresses the temporal arrow of time problem. And it addresses the spell by meaning that I've used both my reaction and an action to cast the spell. And it gives it a utility effect that's sort of interesting, that doesn't exist in the spell. And as an enchantment, you've got those kinds of experience. You can even say that any creature that's not affected by charm wouldn't be affected by this spell. So you couldn't use it against elves or all kinds of things. Or maybe the creature has a magic resistance. So you could this is the direction that you could go with this spell to make it work for your campaign. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to have to hobble together this. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this has been useful for you. I hope you find a way to use Silvery Barbs in your game. And I also hope that you understand that I love Dungeons and Dragons and that my criticisms of the game is built on many years of experience with role-playing games and understanding that this type of slapdash game design really does leave some players behind, and it creates an unnecessary schism. And this is why this is important. You're going to form a lot of times, you're going to form your D&D group out of a core group of friends. Now, if you have different play styles at your table, you now create an unnecessary tension if your game that you're playing only caters or only sees things or is only aware of things on the one level, and you play on that level, eventually it's going to be unpalatable for one of your players. So if you can try to bring everybody together, unify people together, work on a gaming system that brings people together to play the game the way that they want to play, the moderator's empowered to understand, hey, I've got some tools here, I got some tricks here, to make this a big tent, make this for everybody, then that's what I'm trying to do. I think there's a lot that can be there, and do not underestimate the power of that unification, because when the rules and the story and the internal ideas of the characters drive the players, come forward and they drive together, you can create an incredible synthesis and sometimes have some amazing and fun game experiences, and that's what we're all after. I love Wizards of the Coast, but they're in the business of selling books, and a lot of things about the game that you see is about moving product. It really is a business, and they're a juggernaut, and oftentimes they're at a juggernaut at the expense of your game, your experience, your friends, and I guess I just can't yell loudly enough about that and say, you know what, cool, awesome, thank you so much for all that you do, Wizards, but how about we let the players take it from here? How about we let the people in the community who care about the gaming experience, who are not looking to make $1 million on their gaming products, they just want to give to those people who want it an experience that's richer, more visceral, more engaging, more inclusive, and frankly just way more fun. Let's knock that crown off their head. Not in a nasty way, but let's knock it off their head. Great gaming. I'll see you next time. Ruling made. And it's good.
Shield spell.
And the whole idea is we want you to look confused by this because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, unless the reroll on the shield spell never got hit.
No, unless the reroll caused by the Silvery Barbs wouldn't have missed unless the shield spell was already cast.
Ugh, that is confusing.